Hello, and a warm welcome to the Women of Crazy World podcast, a podcast that illuminates the extraordinary journeys, trials, and triumphs of remarkable women in enterprise across the African continent. Whether you're seeking motivation, valuable insights, inspiration, or a sense of belonging in a community that celebrates women's success stories, then this podcast is definitely the right platform for you. We have found that sharing stories and experiences is one of the most effective ways to change minds and provoke actions. Our host, Cindy Lamini, will be guiding us through life transforming narratives as she connects us with her Pan-African network of women making massive moves in the marketplace. We hope that these women's journeys ignite and inspire you. And now I would like to introduce our fabulous host, Cindy Lamini.
Greetings to all the women of Crazy World out there. This is your host, Miss Cindy Lamini, and I'm so excited to be taking the center stage alongside incredible women in various places and spaces across our African continent. Together we'll be sharing profound insights, winning formulas, as well as intertwining our stories of success and empowerment. It's important to note though that this podcast isn't just about storytelling, nor is it limited to an exceptional listening experience, but it's an actual fact and movement. And your tuning in every month is crucial to the rhythm and growth of this movement. Now, with that being said, I'd like to encourage you to assist us in growing our podcast community by simply sharing the podcast link with your women networks far and wide. Okay, so today we are in Kenya with the lovely Linda. Linda, please introduce yourself to our audience and just briefly tell us all about you.
Okay, so like Cindy has said, my name is Linda Sigilai. I have a middle name, it's called Chepkorir. I come from the highlands of Kenya, a part called Nandi. Nandi County is where I was born and raised. It's where we grow a lot of tea. We do not have coffee, but it's where a lot of production of the food produced in Kenya comes from. So that's where my parents come from, and that's where I was raised originally. I am a wife to one husband from the other side of Kenya. Luckily, I come from the Rift Valley area, and I got married to the eastern province of Kenya. So that's how diverse our lives have been. I have two children that I'm raising, a boy and a girl. Proud mother of a 6-year-old and now a 1 month. So that's in short who I am. I've studied in Kenya all my life. All the universities I've gone to are in Kenya. I have an MSc, BSc, and I have a lot of interactions in many different fields: food security, nutrition, and now in the fashion industry as an entrepreneur. That's who I am in brief.
Wow, Linda, that sounds so exciting. I was happy to hear you're where the tea is produced the most. I'm absolutely a lover of tea and not much coffee, but I love tea the most.
Nice.
So
yeah, we have the base tea. We export it a lot.
Is it? So now I know who to go to. I'm definitely coming to Kenya for tea. That's a clear one. But yeah, thank you so much. I love that we are a wife to one and, beautiful mom to two kids. That's fantastic. A kid just a month ago. That's congratulations. That's not over there.
Thank you. Thank you.
So Linda, let's get into a couple more personal questions for you. Who has been the most influential person during your upbringing and why?
So I would say my mom. It might be cliche for everyone to mention their parent as a most influential person, but I would say that they played a very big role in my upbringing, and especially in what I'm doing today. I have had times to reflect, and I would say, yeah, she's taught me a lot. From her life, I've learned a lot of resilience. I've also learned about caring about others, because a lot of that is not in our society today. It's all about me, myself, and I. So I think I reflect a lot of that in the things that I do, the people I care for, the initiatives I start. It's mostly about people, and I'm reflecting back and I'm like, that came from her. She did a lot of self-sacrifice, and it might look like a bad thing at that point when you're feeling like someone else is getting to the share of your cake, but you come and realize this world is a beautiful place only because of people who care about others. So I would say she's really influenced me in a lot of ways. I admire her a lot. Of course, I would want to do a lot of things in a better way, because you have to improve with every generation, but I would say she's the most impactful person in my life.
Hey, that's so beautiful. Now I even want to meet your mom. She sounds like such an inspiration and the cause to all that you're doing. And this phenomenal wife and mother of two, social entrepreneur. I mean, it makes sense how your heart is always for the people. Now we can see it's just a reflection, a mirror image of what your mom instilled in you as a child growing up. which is fantastic. Now we can talk about all the highlights and the greatness and the role models, but the one question I love to ask the most is, what has been your biggest failure, growing up in enterprise, just in general? And the follow-up question to that would be, what were the greatest lessons that you learned from that particular failure or failures?
I would say one of my biggest failures has been overstaying in a place, in this case, a job situation. I am a person who knows when my season is over, but I think I have been so afraid of getting out of my comfort zone, afraid of reaching out for new things, afraid of so many different things. And that led to me staying in a job situation for more than 6 years, in a situation that I knew I should have left. And it got to a point I was so demoralized. I really didn't like what I was doing. And I'm a person who really values what I do. So when it got to a point, I was in a place where I was not giving my best, and I was feeling unappreciated and all that. Must have been my biggest failure, because I feel like I was in a situation that I created myself, and it was because of fear. I was just afraid. I was not moving, not doing anything creative, not giving my best. And my biggest lesson from that was that if you fail, but how you move out of that and how you move on from that situation really matters. Because finally, after leaving my job, I got to a situation and I was like, the whole world is out there and is still waiting for me. And I wouldn't have seen it if I continued staying in my fear, staying in the position where I was just like, okay, this has been working. It must work. I must stay in it. I must push. There is wisdom in pushing sometimes, but there's also wisdom in realizing that a season is over and it's time to move on. Yeah.
I love that response. That's actually quite powerful because many times, whether you're in the job space or you're in the entrepreneurship space or just growing up in general, like I love what you're saying, that you need to recognize when your season is over. And how you're just narrating for the rest of us, but how the job that you overstayed in began to be a discomfort even to you. So no matter how much you're being paid, no matter if your bills are being paid for the job, there was just a discomfort within because you're in the wrong place and it was limiting your growth. And fear was what consumed you there. I like that so much because as youngsters, we tend to not want to take a step forward because of fear, not knowing what's going to happen. If I leave here, then what?
Exactly.
So I'm so proud that you actually decided to say, you know what? Even if I've been in here for 6 years beyond my time, I'm getting out and I'm going to see what's going on out there. And now it brings to the next question now, which is, tell us all about your business, because clearly we left the job and we jumped into business, because here we are, we're social entrepreneur. Let's talk about that a bit.
So yeah, fear was holding me back, but I also had an enterprise on the side. You see, this thing where we like running things on the side, it's actually your passion, but you're keeping something else because it's paying the bills and you're actually not concentrating on your actual passion. So I started my social enterprise when I had my first baby. That was 6 years ago. So I started the social enterprise and I was working with women from prison, formerly imprisoned women, to do tailoring, fashion and design, and just a bit of schooling in terms of tailoring and dressmaking. So that was running, and it was a project, and it was running on the side. But I really never got to the point of just giving it my all. I had seen how many lives it had impacted and the people who were talking about it. We were getting grants here and there, but I'd never really put my all into it because I was like, oh, I have a job, it's paying the bills, it's doing what, and all that. But then now, since last year, June, I now left and now gave it my full focus. So I run a social enterprise here in Kenya. It's called Tuwe Bora. Tuwe Bora is a Swahili word that means let's be better. So that has always been my driving force, that the society can be better. We as individuals can be better. As businesses, we can do better for ourselves, for the people around us, for the environment and all. So it's a fashion business. We do a lot of bespoke costumes. We do a lot of in-house knitting and teaching. We also do brands for designs for other brands who contact us in person. So we are building on that, and we also have a fashion school so that women and young girls from the community can benefit with just some knowledge here and there, so that they can also start their own enterprises. So that, in short, is Tuwe Bora. We are online and you can search us there.
I'm loving the sound of this business because it's not just an income generating factor, but it's now, it's looking at, it's now doing the whole community impact, because you mentioned that you are primarily working with women who are incarcerated. Now that's basically let me call them the lost society, or the people that, people generally don't associate themselves with. And here you are and saying, no, everyone, let's do better. Like you're saying, let's do better for ourselves, do better for our society, do better for even the women that have been the outcast. So I'm so proud of that one. I love that initiative very much. And it sounds like a phenomenal thing to do. Now, with all that, because you're working with a particular group that is, like ostracized, or maybe not thought of as, the group to work with. I mean, what are the challenges there? Talking about trying to get grants, and, have people been condescending to you and saying, look, you're working with the Lost Society, why should we fund you? You're working with criminals. Have you had any of those situations? If you had, what was the way out of that? How do you keep yourself going, and how do you keep these women motivated despite the negative that comes your way in what you're doing?
Yeah, so that's a really good question, because the negatives come from, surprisingly, both externally and internally, as much as that sounds. When you're a social entrepreneur, you quickly realize that you give your all to people, and also you also have a dream of building something big. But because your focus is not mainly profits, it's about helping other people, you have to give so much and you get so little. And when you have competing interests here and there, you have really sometimes to question yourself if this is really what you want to do. So if you're not sure about it as a passion, as a calling, I would say that would become something that can be demotivating, especially when you're seeing people you started with are growing and all that. But a lot of the money that you make goes back into building the people who are around you, capacity building, ensuring that they have this and that. But surprisingly, also, there are people who come from outside and they're like, you can just run a business like a normal business person. You don't have to care so much about others. I remember there's a grant we applied for, and we were told, you're giving so much focus to helping people, but you guys are not doing well yourselves financially. Why don't you just concentrate on making money? So such statements, when they're mentioned here and there, of course you get that feeling like an ouch. It's true, I want better for myself, but what does that mean when I really feel inside me that I want to really help this group of people? But also internally, of course, you should do things without expecting anyone to applaud you or say, oh, you're such a great person and all that. But the discouragement comes when internally maybe there's one or two people you really feel that their lives have been impacted, but then they go out there and they're like, oh, she helped us, but she also got a grant. If it's not for me, she would never have gotten that grant. But in real sense, you as a person, when you count it, it's not like as a person, apart from the satisfaction that you get from running that business. It's not like you have bought a car or bought a house or taken your kids to the best schools. So when you hear the beneficiaries, one or two people, of course, will always be there saying that you have benefited from their lives. You are like, yes, I have, but not in monetary terms. So
all I'm hearing is passion talking. It's one thing to be an entrepreneur, but, because people think, and, being an entrepreneur is all about making money, and, kind of remove themselves from the passion part. And all I'm hearing from you is passion, passion, passion. The amount of attacks, the amount of words that have been spoken to discourage you have never stopped you to say, okay, I'm leaving this thing. I'm going back to my full-time employment. I'm just going to figure it out. So I definitely must, applaud you for that, and just say, keep going. It's a good encouragement, even for the rest of us on this side, that despite the storms, you keep moving anyway. Now, because we were talking about budget and, talking about grants rather, if you had 10 times the budget that you have right now, what would you do for your business? What would you spend it on, and why?
I would actually say, I think I would spend like almost 50% of that amount in just building strategy. I would get the best strategists in the world to just give me a plan of exactly how this is going to be big. Because I think sometimes, like you said, when I speak, it's passion, 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 passion. But I realize there is a lot of potential to impact a lot of people if you just have a good direction of what exactly will work and what will grow and just be massive and impact so many people. So I would invest a lot of that into strategy, have a good research of the market, a good research of where it's going, the trends, how it's going to look like, who are the brands I can partner with, who are the influencers who can speak for us, what are the designs that will do the best in the market. I would invest 50% of that just into that strategy first. Then after that, now I would go into production and a good chunk of the amount into marketing also. Because most of the time, money is in what really matters. When you put your money in the right place, then for a long while, it will keep you running instead of just reinvesting into things that are already working. I would invest into what I think we have not put a lot of our money into, which is just getting a good strategy for the way forward.
That's a very beautiful response. Invest in strategy, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Often when I ask this question, if the normal answer is marketing, marketing, marketing. And once I understand why, because when you're getting your product out there on the market, all of that, that's when you're getting, the customers come your way. But this is
Yeah.
such a profound response. Invest in strategy. You would think
Yeah.
that, as you started something, you have the strategy because you began with a goal, you decided to go in one direction, but it's so interesting that even as you pursue your business, the
Mm-hmm.
strategy is always developing. It never remains the
Yeah.
same as it was yesterday or the year before, because
Mm-hmm.
things are changing, things are moving, and so as the business, it must move. So I'm really,
Yeah.
really that I'm taking a note on that. Invest in strategy. That's my
Mm-hmm.
own personal note to actually follow up on. Now it leads me up to the next question. No, part of being a good entrepreneur is goal setting. So what
Mm-hmm.
exactly is your ultimate goal in as far as your business is concerned? That was the first question. And the
Mm-hmm.
follow-up question was, what are the steps that you are currently taking to ensure that you achieve this goal?
Okay. So I would say as a business, what we want to do is like in the next 5 years, we want to have an impact on the environment and on the people who are working for us, but we also want to be a profit-making business. Because for most social enterprises, a lot of focus is just put on impact, impact, impact. But we have realized that even while being a business that is making money, you can still impact people and their lives, because even putting money in the hands of the people that are working for you is still impact. That is something that I realized very recently, and it's what we are working towards as a business. Because for the last 6 years, as I have said, we have worked with a number of people and their lives have been impacted. But we have case studies of people who, after they have gotten training, after they started their own businesses, their businesses are not growing as much. And we realize that impact can also be in the way that money gets to the people who you've taught skills. You have impacted their lives with skills, but what about the money part? So what we are doing as a business is in terms of strategy, like I mentioned before, we are making deliberate strategic partnerships with brands who are able to go out there, market, and sell the produce in with a good amount so that we get real profits and returns that will make us get to a point where even those who are working for us or those who are associated with us can get good money for what they're producing. So we are making, for the point that we are having right now is strategic partnerships with brands who can sell our produce within the country and even outside the country, to ensure that it's not just those we are training, it's not just those who are getting a life after they've out of after they've come out of prison, but it's even the amount of money that they're able to make out of that, so that they can say, I have not only gained skills, but I have grown. This is my bank account. These are my children. These are the schools they've been able to go to. This is what we've been able to do. That I think is a mindset shift that we just had recently, and we are working towards that.
That's the first step to growth is first recognizing where the problem is or where the gap is. So I would
Yeah.
definitely say to you that you are definitely well on your way to filling
Mhm.
that gap, or filling that void in the business part. Because
Yeah.
I love what you're just saying is, okay, it's wonderful these women go back into society, they have a life, but how are they sustaining themselves? You've given them a
Yeah.
skill set, and then they can't really generate income from the skill set. They have
Mhm.
knowledge, but then they're
Mhm.
now not able to not translate that knowledge into a monetary form. And so
Exactly.
I love the fact, like I said, the fact to recognize where the error is. it's a good starting point, because it now enables you to even be able to see where are the strategic partnerships that we're now going to go to. So
Yeah.
my next question for you now would be as in your own opinion, what should everyone in your industry either stop or start doing, to be successful?
I would say is don't rush, especially in the fashion industry. I would say don't rush into doing things. That's why I think I put a lot of emphasis on strategy. Don't just go out there and do something because it's working for someone. Have your own strategy. Like, what is my game plan? What is my business model? How do I see myself making money out of it, out of this passion of mine that I have? How am I going to price it? How am I going to be different in the market? What's going to make me different from the next person? Because the discouragement that a lot of new entrepreneurs or existing entrepreneurs have is when you have a mind block or you're stuck in something. And because you just did it because everyone else was doing it and succeeding, you really get, if you're even having a low season, you close out and go back home. So if you have a good strategy and maybe this month and this month things might not look like this, but I have a game plan. At the end, this is where I'm going, this is where I'm heading, this is what is different between me and the next person who's doing something similar to mine. I have a new line that is coming out at this time. I have this X number of people who are benefiting from me doing this. It will keep you going. It will ensure you don't just close out. It will ensure that you're not here today and tomorrow you are not in the business. I think that's the most important thing. As an individual, knowing the why is very important. And as a business, having a strategy to ensure that the why becomes a reality is really, really important. And that's what I think every person should have.
I love it. Having the strategy to ensure that the why becomes a reality.
Yeah.
Man, Linda, so many nuggets, so many precious nuggets coming from you. I'm taking my own personal notes here to make sure that, hey,
Uh,
after this interview, I'm also implementing. So, yeah, I'm
mhm,
really excited. That sounds fantastic. When I'm also listening to your strategy part, and, I'm
mhm,
also my interpretation of what you're saying is, there's
mhm.
got to be a good amount of research that you do as well. Like you research your
Exactly.
market, you research
Mm-hmm.
audiences,
Mm-hmm.
before you know where you're going, you might have done a lot of research for that. So I'm just also hearing that coming through from you that, hey,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
once you want to jump in, make sure you've done enough research that is this going to work just because it's working for Linda. You don't know what Linda's challenges are and how she comes out of
Yeah.
them. So do your research as
Mm-hmm.
well. So I think
Yeah.
that's something I can also add to the answer to that. And then
Yeah.
my other question would be, what do you see as the future of your industry in the next 5 to 10 years, if possible?
Uh, a big thing that is coming up, and I think it's in every industry, but very recently in the fashion industry, especially here in Africa, is sustainability. It's very significant and it's a shift that is coming up. At least consumers are now increasingly concerned about the environment. They're increasingly concerned about the social impact that fashion has. Because previously, where you source for materials, how you produce, how you dump your waste throughout the supply chain was not a concern as much, especially for the fashion industry in Africa, if I was to say. But right now, there is a shift towards sustainability. Every consumer wants to know how, where did you source for this fabric? Is it a recycled fabric? Are you revamping an old cloth into something new? Are you thinking about who is working for you? How many hours are they working? And where are you sourcing even for your fabric? Has something gone into this to ensure that everything is being done in the right way? So I think that's the future of fashion, thinking sustainably, thinking about where we are sourcing, thinking about the people who are working for us. And this brings out the issue of fast fashion versus slow fashion, because there was a lot of copying from the West in terms of this is in trend, this is in trend. But now more people are really concerned about our planet, what we are doing, where we are going, and the negative consequences that we have been having on the people who are working for us, the environment, the excessive consumption that was just here. And I think this is a very big chance for us to loop in and see how are we doing quality craftsmanship, but also thinking about the longevity of what I am producing for you. How ethical is the production process? How ethically am I sourcing for the fabric? Can I source for a recycled fabric and still give you quality? Can I think of revamping something that is already existing into something that can be reused in a way that is still really good and you look really nice? So I think that's the future of fashion for us, and here in Africa especially.
Man, I love my continent, Africa. Big things coming and lined up. I'm just listening to what you're saying and I'm thinking,
Yeah.
who knew there was
Mhm.
so much involved in fashion? I think we look at the final product, what's on the rails in the store. We just collect that. We're not quite
Mhm.
aware of the processes and the amount of thought that must go into what is being produced. And I'm just
Yeah.
hearing this from you and I'm thinking, wow, it's really an eye opener for me because like I said, all I just see is what's the end product on the shelf. And I'm just buying that I like it. But what the work that's involved around it is quite interesting. And I love your speaking
Yeah.
and touching into sustainability for Africa. That's something we like
Mhm.
to see. I loved as well that you mentioned that, we're pulling away from the copy and paste from the West. It just tells
Mhm.
me that we're coming with our authentic sound, even as
Yeah.
Africans, are presenting what Africa looks like in the form of fashion. So that for
Mhm.
me is pretty much exciting because I believe we've got our own niche style, our own niche movement, our own niche
True.
way of communicating whatever it is through fashion. And we
Mhm.
appreciate the West for taking us to a certain extent, but I do believe that it's time for Africa to rise in all spheres. So good on you guys for just focusing on what it is that you're doing now. We are super excited for that. And then
Yeah.
Linda, I'm just going to wrap it up real quickly because we've done really well with our time here. So that's really great. Listening to
Mhm.
you speak, you talk a lot about, you pose the right questions, which tells me you do a very significant amount of reading up about what it is that you do, the new trends, what's working,
Mhm.
what's not. And so if I was, wanting to start out in the fashion industry, where would
Mhm.
I start in terms of resources? Where do I start reading about what fashion's all about? Is there? You mentioned something about was it starting an academy or something in fashion in
Yeah.
your work? You provide that kind of
Mhm.
training for women. Is that available at university level? Where you like where do I go if I want to start? Do I have to go straight to school, or just a matter of saying, look, I know how to work a sewing machine. I'm just going to start sewing.
So I would say YouTube Academy exists. If you're passionate enough and you have a few skills here and there, YouTube Academy exists. As long as you're a creative and you can do something about it, I would advise that, so that you just test it out before you go full in and decide what you want to do. A lot of people in the fashion industry also right now offering fashion courses online. So if you before you really decide what you want to do, you can check out those few materials to ensure that you really are conversant with what is going on in the market and be sure that this is something you want to do. I would also say in terms of sustainability, sourcing for fabrics and all those, especially if you are someone who's eco-friendly, someone who's concerned about the environment and the people who work. The big brands like H&M and the others have done a lot of report, especially for fashion, for consumers who are environmentally conscious and all that, and also people who want to source for fabric that is recycled or has some element in it. It will just give you a guide on that. So I would say that's part of it. And also for us at Tuwe Bora, we have a fashion class and it's online. So you can also check our website to see how you can contact us on that if you're here around in Kenya, because we still have a physical class. We do not have it online. So I would say that. And also kudos to some of our AWEC sisters, because myself and Cindy are in AWEC. I know some of them are doing fashion classes online. So I would also want to big up them while I'm on this call.
That's a good one. So, Linda, before I just let you go, if you
Yeah.
could be remembered for one thing on this earth, what would that be?
I want to be remembered through the eyes of people, because I believe that through the lives that I've been able, the people I have worked with, the people I remember. Just shortly, there's a lady who came. She had been in prison for 13 years, 2 months, and when she came out, she had nowhere to start. And she joined us immediately. And right now, she's doing her own business. She has her own family. They are now in contact with. When I see such stories, that's how I want to be remembered, that there was someone who was hopeless somewhere. They didn't know that I exist. We are not related and all that. But they found a home with me. They found a place to start their life with. And now they have a family. They are thriving. I would want to be remembered as someone who just gave someone that second chance and that second opportunity to build themselves up again.
Phenomenal. Linda, the philanthropist, Linda, the life
Yeah.
changer, Linda, the rescue, Linda, all of that. Now, Linda, 30 seconds because my time's almost up.
Yeah.
Where can people find you? Because they need to know all about you. You
Yeah.
mentioned the website.
No.
Can we have those details? Any social media handles?
No.
Just so people know where to look for you.
Yes. So you can find us on Impact at Tuwe Bora or Tuwe Bora, www.tuwebora.com. You can search for us online on all social media handles. We are at Tuwe Bora on Instagram, at Tuwe Bora on TikTok, at Tuwe Bora also on Twitter, and at Tuwe Bora on Facebook.
Well, you've heard it for yourself, beautiful ladies, the beautiful Linda from Kenya doing amazing things, touching lives, changing lives, a woman of impact. Linda, we wish nothing but the best for you. We wish nothing but the ultimate growth for your business. I just really hope and pray that, what, look, may the Lord just increase you in all that you're doing. Your work is important, it's phenomenal, and we just want to thank you as women of Crazy Wealth. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for sharing us, giving us your heart, and encouraging us all to do better.
Thank you so much, Cindy. And it was a pleasure. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Thank you for tuning in to this month's episode of the Women of Crazy World podcast. Remember to share the link to your women's network on your social media platforms. And because we absolutely love to hear from you, do drop us a comment in the comment section below on how this episode has inspired you. Looking forward to learning and growing with you once again. So do join us next month at 3 p.m. for yet another live transformational episode. For now, it's goodbye from